Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Korea once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has actually featured on the channel a couple of times before. So back in 2019, when I first visited Korea, I picked up two beers from this brewery and reviewed them, and then a couple of years after that, that was back in 2022, this brewery actually collaborated with a brewery that is fairly local to me in the south of Sweden, and that was really nice. They did a very nice sour beer actually. But the one that we're going to have a look at today will actually be the strongest beer that I've ever tried from this brewery, and it is supposed to be a very nice one actually. This is one of their more recent releases from what I understand, and these days this brewery is actually exporting their beer across Asia a little bit, and that means that they're one of the more recognisable Korean craft breweries these days. So definitely nice to return to them after what feels like a good little while, and definitely cool to do a solo brewery beer review from these guys again after quite a few years. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see how this beer turns out. Hopefully it's another good one. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review. And as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. Always cool to review Korean beers here on Rampant Lion Reviews. So for this review then, we are going to head to Busan in the southeast of the country. I'm never sure whether to say Busan or Busan. Honestly not sure. Some people say one, some people say the other. But we're going to go to the Gwangan area of the city, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from Gorilla Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Dive 2.5. It comes in at 10.2% ABV, so it is a little bit of a monster. And this one is a triple IPA. Now on Untappd, this one is simply just listed as triple IPA. It doesn't specify, American, West Coast, New England. But on the malt base on the back of the label, it does list wheat and oats. And usually that means it's going to be a New England hazy. So we'll just need to see. It might well have a little bit more bitterness in it. So the main question is always going to be, is it a good beer? And that's what we're going to see. But yeah, Dive 2.5, a 10.2% triple IPA from Gorilla Brewing in Busan in South Korea. So let's crack on with this one then and see how we get on. My first dedicated or solo brewery beer review from these guys in about 4 years. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Gorilla Brewing Company before, and we will see about adding more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will show up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the South Korean playlist along with a number of other things, and that is being added to whenever I get the opportunity, which is more frequently these days since I'm now based in Hong Kong. But let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Gorilla Brewing Company. So, as I've mentioned to you already, Gorilla Brewing Company are based in Busan in the southeastern part of South Korea, and the company was founded back in 2015 by two English guys. This was Andy Green and Paul Edwards. So the brewery are based in the Gwangan area, and they started out with a small brew pub that was located at the far eastern edge of Gwangali Beach, and at this time they were just brewing very small 100-litre batches, but the brewery could be seen through a glass window behind the bar. So Paul was the original head brewer, and also apparently involved at one stage with Galmegi, an Itaewon brewery in Korea, but later they recruited Callum Bennett, who was the head brewer of Crate Brewery in London, and he became a partner in the brewery as well. So in March of 2017, they moved to a new brewery close to Gwangali Beach, which has the brewery downstairs, and it's got a much larger bar area up the stairs. You can check out my Out and About video that I filmed there a few years ago. Might need to go and redo that at some point actually and get some better sound. But they serve food at this brewery. They're very well known for their pizzas actually. They host beer yoga classes as well. And over the years they've continued to expand the brewery's infrastructure. More recently they began canning their beers in these big half-litre cans, and they started exporting their beer outside of Korea as well. I think the first place that they exported their beer was to Thailand. I've seen their beers have made it here to Japan as well, actually. Koji at Liquor Shop Asahiya here in Osaka was stocking them, and I've seen them at places like Craftissimo in Hong Kong as well. So definitely one of the more recognisable Korean craft breweries these days, along with the likes of Chill Hops, and there are a few others getting out there as well, actually, like Wild Wave. But the name Gorilla was chosen for this brewery because gorilla is the same in Korean as it is in English, so they felt that it was quite an English-friendly name, actually, because they wanted to export their beers at one stage, or at some point, I should say. But they're now growing their own hops as well, from what I understand. And as of April 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 108 different types of beer, and there are a variety of different styles, actually. But mainly it's their IPAs, I think, that are getting out there a little bit more. And they do seem to have a core range. They've got a British Stout, from what I saw. They've got a regular IPA. There was a Pale Ale in there as well. And I think they had like an English Bitter or an English Mild or something like that, if I remember correctly. But this is one of their more kind of beastly releases, if you like. But yeah, their core range beers are getting out there a little bit more, which is definitely nice to see. But that is everything I can tell you about Gorilla Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages if you want to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So let's go on and have a wee look at this one then. So I'll let you have a little look at the artwork on this before we open up. As you can see, there is the Gorilla Brewing Company symbol on the top of the can. This can, incidentally, is a ½ litre, which is why it looks that little bit taller. There you can see the guy just preparing to do his dive, and there's the little title part of the beer down there as well. Now, it's one of the interesting things. Hangul, of course, you'll see the Korean alphabet. I don't know if you can really call it an alphabet or even a syllabary, actually, because, hiragana and katakana in Japanese are known as syllabaries, but you can see the Korean Hangul there. It's a very clever writing system, actually, that apparently can replicate pretty much any sound made elsewhere in the world, and the Koreans are very proud of this, quite rightly, if that's the full functionality of it. But I always like looking at the Hangul. But anyway, it tells you a wee bit on the back here about the beer. So it says Dive 2.5, nestled between a double dive and a triple dive, Dive 2.5 emerges. Fueled by the vibrant essences of mango, pine, citrus, herbal, tropical fruit and stone fruit drawn from mosaic and citra hops, its 10% ABV delivers both intense bitterness and a crisp finish. Sounds like it's going to be an American IPA rather than New England in that case. But dive into the extraordinary with Gorilla's Dive 2.5. Are you ready to embark on our journey to strength? Interesting. But yeah, the malt base in this one is pale malt, wheat malt, malted oats and flaked oats. Says mosaic and citra, both hops that we know quite well. It's a kind of classic combination, both American, both 14% alpha acid. Mosaic is going to give you that nice tangerine orange with a wee bit of earthiness in the green component. Citra is going to give you that kind of big juicy mango, and then in New England it's going to give you quite a bit of lemon limey character as well. The yeast in this one is, I think SO4 is going to be Cephalophore, and it gives you a food pairing as well. And it says you can pair this one with Sugar by Maroon 5 as well, and The Godfather movie from 1972. So this should be quite interesting. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. Dive 2.5, 10%. I thought it was 10.2% actually. At least that's what it was listed as on Untappd. But a triple IPA from Gorilla in Busan in South Korea. Yeah, definitely looks a bit more like a hazy, but yeah, it could well just be an American. So I think that'll do for looking at the appearance of the beer for the moment. So anyway, you can see that this beer is poured, how would we say, quite a deep kind of ambery peach juice type colour. I would definitely say that. But before the head disappears, you can see that the beer poured with between a half and a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head. That's fading away now though, and it will just be a very thin foamy layer at some point. But yeah, medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid, and a few foamier ones just going up the side of the glass there. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it looks pretty nice, this one. So yeah, I'm going to say in terms of appearance, you can see this one, it does have that kind of hazy New England type IPA appearance to it. And that's down to the use of wheat and oats in the malt base. Those are the ones that give you the haziness. And that's one of the kind of fundamental requirements, I guess you could say, or one of the fundamental, the boxes that you need to tick for a New England IPA. West Coast IPAs use mainly barley malt. It's not unheard of to use like a little bit of wheat or a little bit of oats, but yeah, they are pretty much all barley malt in the malt base. New England IPAs use wheat, oats, and barley in their malt base. The other key difference would be the way you hop these beers. Because West Coast IPAs are distinctly more kind of bitter, if you like. They've got that big bitterness character to them. So there's three kinds of ways that you can hop your IPAs. Early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil. That's going to give you a big, deep, dank aroma. And also it's going to give you more bitterness in the flavour. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place within the last half hour of the wort boil. That gives you quite a bright green component in terms of flavour and aroma. And yeah, mainly gives you the flavour and aroma component. And dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, which is all about flavour and aroma, and again gives you a very bright green component. New England IPAs tend to rely on the latter two, whereas West Coast IPAs use all three, which is why they are more bitter and deep and dank. But these days there's also a kind of category called American IPA, which is somewhere in the middle. And I suspect that this beer is going to be a little bit more like one of those American IPAs, but we'll taste it and see. But anyway, we've gone over the technicalities of the beer. It does look more like a kind of New England IPA than it does a West Coast, but it could well be an American. As I said, not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. The head has disappeared pretty much, if you like, just a little foamy layer around the edge of the glass. But yeah, if we sugar it up, you are going to get some of that back, as you can see. But yeah, that's the appearance part done. Let's have a wee look at the aroma of this beer then and see what it has. Yeah, this beer, I'm going to say straight away, you can smell from the aroma, it's not at its absolute freshest, but it's still in pretty damn good condition actually. And one of the things is as well, that you can usually tell with beers that have oats in them how fresh they are, because essentially the creamier the oats like smell and taste, the fresher the beer is, the more kind of dry they smell, the older it is. And you are starting to get some of the dryness and the kind of almost like porridgey notes out of the oat in this beer. So yeah, I think this one might well have been sitting for a wee bit. Does it have a canned on date? I'll have a little look. Yeah, this one was canned. This one was canned in November 2023. So yeah, we're drinking this one when it is about 5 months old, something like that. But at this strength, it should still hold up pretty well. But that is worth remembering. We are drinking this one a few months into its life, and you should, you always want to drink IPAs before they're about 6 months old. So yeah, after 6 months, that's when they kind of really start to deteriorate in my mind. But yeah, within the first 3 months is usually the optimum, to be honest. But yeah, you can smell that bit of oatiness coming out of this one that tells you the beer's not at its optimum freshness. But we'll rate it as it is. But yeah, the green component on this one tells me there has been a little bit of early addition hopping, but mainly it's relying on the late addition and dry hopping, because it's quite a bright green component. And then everything else is kind of as you would expect from the IPA. It definitely has a bit more of that American IPA type vibe to it, but it's leaning toward the New England side of things. There's a wee bit of that deeper, danker note and some of the sweetness that you might expect of West Coast, but I think it's fair to say this is American rather than full New England, if you like. But yeah, let's break the aroma down and actually describe it for you more in depth. So, pardon me, the backbone of this beer is that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust. That absolutely is your backbone of the beer, that fresh hedgehog white bread roll type thing. That's what's coming out of this. On top of that, you have a little bit of a woodiness and a little bit of a crackery character in there. I would say the bready, there is a little bit of a slightly sweeter brown bread in this one, but really it's quite a big, thick, it really is quite a big, thick sort of yeah, it's really quite a big, thick, dense, white bready character that you're getting out of this rather than anything else. So yeah, it's yeah, big, dense, thick, white bread. There's a little bit of wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose, but not too much. If this was a New England IPA, it's definitely leaning more toward the barley malt and the oaty side of things. So that could be due to its the fact that it's about 5 months old or so. But yeah, it'd be interesting to smell this one fresh because you get a bit better impression of that. But yeah, there's a lot of white bread in there. There's a wee bit of the oaty bite, the wheaty bitiness. Then you've also got the yeah, you've also got that kind of yeah, you've also got that nice oaty creaminess as well. The drier oaty character coming out of it, as I said. And since it's, you know, a 10% one, you are getting some sweetness out of this. You're getting a wee bit of that like Werther's original butter candy, butterscotchy, boozy sort of thing that you often get in the heavier sort of New England IPAs. And like I say, this one, I think technically it will be American IPA rather than New England, but it's leaning very much toward the New England side of the spectrum there. So yeah, we don't have to put beers in boxes all the time, but yeah, it's definitely worth doing it when you have these American IPAs for sure. But I think that covers everything we need to say about the malty side of the beer. So we should look at the hoppy side of things. So like I said earlier, the green component on this one does have a little bit of that kind of pungency to it. So yeah, you've got that lovely little bit of, you do get a wee bit of earthiness out of this one, which is obviously going to be from the mosaic. You do have quite a nice deep, dank and slightly spicy floral aromaticity out of this one. That's going to come from both the Citra and mosaic in this case, and you've got a bit more of that zesty, grassy character as well. And that I think is most likely to come from the Citra out of the two. But yeah, aroma-wise, the green component is pretty much as you'd expect, and really more sort of New Englandy. But yeah, interesting. So on the yeah, on the fruity side of things, I think that's all we really need to cover left. It's kind of what you'd expect if you know these hops. There is a little bit of that. There's a wee bit of the kind of stronger, more pungent grapefruit from the Citra, but I'd say it actually leans more toward a kind of peachy sort of thing. I've been finding more and more with Citra in recent times, having more, you know, more readily available peach and grapefruit and stuff like that in Asia. I'm finding I get more peach from Citra these days than grapefruit, which didn't used to be the case when I was doing these videos. So yeah, I'm getting quite a bit of peach out of this one. There's also quite a bit of the nice juicy passion fruit and quite a bit of big kind of juicy mango as well. So yeah, peach, passion fruit, mango. Yeah, there's a wee bit of like apricot and pineapple and stuff in there, and these are all things that you can get from Citra. But then yeah, at the front of the nose, you've got that big kind of juicy, oily orange, which is most definitely your mosaic. So yeah, the way all of that pieces together in this one, I think, is really, really nice, in fact. So that gets a big thumbs up from me. Aroma-wise, yeah, pretty much what you would expect from an American IPA, and it's yeah, pretty much what you'd expect from the American IPA as a style, but leaning much, 80-90% of the way toward the New England side of the spectrum. So yeah, I'm sure when we taste it we can see if it's a New England or not. But yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma before you get stuck in. But I think we should taste this one now and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the Dive 2.5, a 10.2% American triple IPA, if we can call it that, from Gorilla Brewing in Busan in South Korea. So let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers, Ganbei, Kampai. That's held up pretty well, actually. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. I'll tell you something. For a 10%er, that is really dangerously drinkable, actually. It hides its booze very, very well. Yeah, it really does hide its booze very, very well, this one. And I'm just letting this develop into, I'm just letting this kind of, this beer evolve on the palate a little bit. Because it's quite a wee bit different from the other New England and American IPAs that I've had in recent times. Um, it's got a little bit more of a yeasty character to it, this one. So it's actually got this kind of almost grainy, crackery, woody, bready sort of underlining, actually. So yeah, this it has this kind of more yeasty, grainy character that comes out a wee bit more in the aftertaste, but you're also getting the big kind of sweet, smooth, malty characteristics coming out of this one too. So solid beer. This one, as I say, it's if you think, I think it really is. It's 90% of the way to a New England, and if it's within the New England category, it's definitely more yeasty, oaty, and sweet. As I say, with New England, for me, there's 6 elements: the yeasty, farmhousey character, the rye leaning, grainy side of things. Those are more common in American brewed takes on the style. But you've got wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and then also the sweeter side of things. So yeah, a bit more yeasty, bit more oaty, and also a little bit sweeter, I think, is the way to describe the makeup of this beer. Flavour profile wise, the level of sweetness that it has all takes it into the American IPA category rather than New England for me. But the yeastiness and stuff that it has too, I think, pushes it into the New England. So it's kind of balanced, this one. I'd say maybe on the flavour, maybe, yeah, 3/4, 80% New England. But yeah, wee bit of American quality to this one. But like I say, it's very smooth. It's really wet. And that's, you get that kind of dry, woody, yeasty character into the aftertaste. So yeah. Yeah. So, on the, let's just break this beer down then and describe the flavour for you more in depth. I'll say this one doesn't really do anything surprising. It's just the makeup of it is a wee bit different, actually, compared to other ones we've had within this style category. Let's start in the middle third of the palate then, as we always do. The backbone of the beer is that fresh, white bready hedgehog bread crust. No question about that. If you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of kind of woodiness in there. There's a very light kind of smattering of cracker above the bread crust too. Then you get the more dense, brown bready character out of this one. So yeah, lovely kind of dense brown bready character in there. And then yeah, you've got that kind of white bread. Yeah, you've got the dense brown bready character and then the more dense white bready character as well. And yeah, those have both got that little element of sweetness to them as well. So I like that. It's really good. Yeah. On the on top of that, you can feel above the white bready character, you can feel the wheaty layer in this one, because the wheat, whenever you get wheat in these beers, it does give you that little bit of density. So at the back of that middle third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit of the wheaty bitiness there, but then yeah, the wheat kind of spreads forward along the middle third of your palate, and it's got that big dense white bready sort of thing to it. So yeah, I like how that pieces together as well. But then above that, you start to get the oats. So down the middle line of your palate, you have more of a, yeah, down the middle line of your palate, you get that more kind of creamy, oaty sort of thing coming out of this one. So you can really feel that. And as you go out toward the edges of that middle third of your palate, you definitely get the kind of drier aspects of the oat as well. And in the centre of the middle third of your palate, you do get that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy, boozy kind of thing. So yeah, definitely the malty side of this one is more along the lines of a New England IPA, that's for sure. But it has got a wee bit of the, pardon me, I drank quite a bit of water before drinking this one. I can feel that already. But yeah, you do get a bit more of the kind of the oaty character really kind of pushes its way out in this one, which is quite interesting. So yeah. Yeah. So, in terms of the middle third of the palate, I think we've said everything we need to. Let's go to the back third of your palate. As I've often said, the back third of your palate will give you similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. So yeah, a little bit of kind of brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, and you can feel a wee bit of the kind of wheaty bitiness too. But yeah, on the back third of your palate, as you often get, the flavours are just that little bit drier. So there's definitely a little bit of yeah, there's definitely a wee bit of the, how would you say, you get the white bread, you get the bread crust underneath, which is a little bit drier, then you get the Jacob's cream cracker above that, and then you have the brown bready layer, which feels a little bit lighter and more airy, the white bready layer, which feels a little bit lighter and more airy, and then you get the yeah, you get the kind of wheaty bitiness just kind of creeping over the top of that, which is really quite nice. So yeah, above everything else there, you've got the yeasty side of the beer too. So the yeasty side on that back third of your palate, you can feel there's really dense, dry, kind of white bready character in there, and it's surrounded by a little bit of a more kind of wholemealy, brown bready character, and then you have a yeah, then you have a wee bit of a kind of crackery note around it as well. So yeah, the way that goes together is really nice. Yeah, but definitely back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller, and then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way everything pieces together in this beer is quite nice actually on the malty and yeasty side of things, and you get more of the yeastiness into the aftertaste too. Yeah, hoppy side of things then, green component. Back corners of the palate, you've got that nice little bit of earthiness in there. That's your mosaic, and as you move further forward, it's definitely showing you a bit of herbal quality, and as you push further forward toward the kind of front corners of your palate, there's a wee bit of floral aromaticity in there. Now this beer is about 5 months old, so you can feel that some of the green component has dropped off in this one. You can definitely feel that in this beer. I'm guessing that it hasn't been refrigerated for the entirety of its life. You can kind of tell that a little bit with it. But around the front curve of your tongue, it's got a wee bit of a lighter sort of grassy kind of edge to it for sure, so you can feel that in there. And yeah, that I think covers the green component of this one, but the green component feels very light in this beer, and you can tell that it's relying on late addition and dry hopping for sure, definitely. But it has, as I say, held up fairly well. I'm just going to put the rest of this out into the glass. I want to check. No sediment at the bottom of the can. And I just want to make sure that we fully, before we go on to the fruity side of this beer, I just want to check whether we get a wee bit more sweetness or breadiness or anything out of the malt base before we finish off with the fruits. Yeah, no. This beer, it has, I think it's probably been refrigerated when it's been transported. Maybe in the shop it hasn't been in the, maybe in some of the cold chain somewhere on the line is broken down with this one. But yeah, the hops aren't quite as crisp and things in this one as you might expect, I would say. So yeah, that's one thing. You do get a little bit of bitterness out of this beer into the aftertaste, but just maybe not quite as much as you might expect, because they do say a little bit of bitterness and crisp finish with this beer. But yeah, that's something to think about. So yeah, with this one then, on the fruity side of things, then we'll look at the front third of your palate. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get that little bit of bready build up in there, brown bread in the base, white bread on top. Then the backbone of that front third of your palate, you've got the bread crust in there, the cracker, the brown bread, the white bread, then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So we'll look at those now. So yeah, the way that pieces together is quite nice too, but the fruity side of things is pretty much what you'd expect from these two hops in your, kind of classic combination. At the back of that front third of your palate, in the fruity part, there's a wee bit of peach. You've definitely got some passion fruit in there, some juicy mangoes. Yes, peach, passion fruit, juicy mangoes, and yeah, there's a little bit of yeah, there is a little bit of, I would say, an apricot or a pineapple or something like that coming out of it too. So yeah, on the yeah, I would say on the front half of that front third of your palate, you're getting the mosaic out of this one, that kind of big juicy tangerine orange. And you get a wee bit of the lemon lime just behind the very front tip of the tongue too, and that's from the citra. So yeah, peach, passion fruit, mango, little bit of apricot underneath, tangerine, and a wee bit of lemon lime. These are all things you expect from the citra and mosaic. But as I say, I don't think the hops in this beer are coming out that well at this point, but that's just, down to the age of the beer, and I think you can kind of tell this one hasn't been the cold chain's broken down somewhere, I think, with this one. And in Asia you do have to be careful with that because of the humidity and heat and so on. So yeah, I think we're tasting this beer not in its absolute prime, but it's still pretty nice and pretty enjoyable actually, and it's dangerously easy to drink for a 10%er. But some of the characters we're getting this one could also be because of the Safal yeast. I remember the Safal yeast had a bit more kind of crackery and brown bready and woody sort of character to it, so it might just be the yeast in this one that's taking away a little bit from some of the green component of the beer. So yeah, interesting points to make about this one. But yeah, I think we've said everything we need to about the flavour. Mouthfeel wise, for me, yeah, top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation's very smooth in this one. Has got a bit of oily slickness to it and a wee bit of creaminess as well. IBU wise, I think this beer is maybe, I think it's maybe about 40 or 50, something like that. Yeah, 40 or 50 I think. It's going there. It could be nearer 50 actually, this one. But the malt base, as I say, has got a bit of dryness underneath. There's a bit of smoothness in the middle and a wee touch of sweetness and creaminess on top. The fruitiness is kind of what you'd expect, a little bit more oily and well balanced between the tropical and orange side of things. But yeah, all in all, solid double IPA this one. I'd say definitely more of an American IPA rather than being fully New England. I just noticed IBUs there, 42.7 IBUs in this one apparently. So there you go. I thought it was nearer 50. But yeah, not a bad guess. So yeah, I think we've said everything that we really need to about this beer at this point. So yeah, solid enough, but I think it could have been in better condition. That's not the brewery's fault. I think the cold chain has broken down with this particular can at some point. But still, the beer held up pretty solidly. It is in pretty good condition, but I think the green component has suffered a little bit with this one. But yeah, all in all, good stuff. And I would be curious to try a few more beers from Gorilla at some point in the near future, which will be possible, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Gorilla Brewing Company as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until then, Slange, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out Gorilla Brewing social media, and do give me some other Korean beer recommendations, because I would be curious to explore some more Korean breweries. But until the next time, Slange, Skål, cheers, and see you guys in the next review. Ciao just now.